wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Welcome. I'm Amanda Graff, the Director of Religious Education here at First Unitarian Church. I use she, her pronouns. I'm so glad to see all of you here this morning. And I'm grateful for the power of this Unitarian Universalist community to gather us back together week after week. This was a scary week in our country and in the world. And this week brought new and shocking threats to our democracy in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. And it brought a brave response here in Rochester and in many communities across the United States. Folks who were showing up in protest and raising their voices together, coming together. There's real hope and power in the togetherness that we find here and out in the streets. So here at First Unitarian, our mission is through spiritual connection and community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves, open to wonder and transformation, and serve together with love and humility. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral lands First Unitarian now stands. If you are new or newish here, please stop in at the welcome desk so we can help you connect. And if you're here today because you're going through a hard time or are worried about someone else who is, please connect with a pastoral care associate during or after our services. Next week, we begin worshiping upstairs in Gilbert Hall. Make a note in your mind. Arrive next week. We're up in Gilbert Hall, and we're there for the rest of the summer. It gets pretty warm down here, which is an issue we're trying to address. But for now, we still head up to Gilbert Hall for summer services starting next week. Next week is General Assembly, and so we'll start with a potluck at 10:30 and then join together for the streamed service up in Gilbert Hall at 11 a.m. Reverend Vertus is leading worship, and church members have solos. Like, you'll see them on the big screen. So come and enjoy the worship together. It's not to be missed. As we settle into this sacred time and place, take a deep breath. I invite you to light a chalice wherever you are. And here in our sanctuary, Elliot King, our bridging senior this morning, will light our chalice. In our shared words, life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit one more time as we sing Building Bridges.
I'm Donald. I use any and all pronouns, and today is Father's Day. A lot of you know my dad, Coop. Most of you know him for the names tags, postcards, and basically anything else he can put calligraphy on. Every time I have a friend come over, he spends the entire time making us snacks, playing guitar, and writing their name in calligraphy about 100 times. Whether it's their 1,000th time coming over, they've never been to my house before, them and I are fighting, or they're my best friend. He puts the same amount of care into each and every friend. Using the right spelling, right pens, ink, paper, everything is perfect. A few weeks ago, when my friend Haley came over, he spent the entire time spelling her name over and over again so we didn't get it wrong. Hailey. Hailey. And isn't that why we come to church? To be treated the same no matter our differences?
Any children in the sanctuary to come down for the time for all ages. We have something a little bit different today. So come on down, have a seat on the carpet, but we want the children forward because you are an important part of the ritual we're going to take part in together. So we're gathering today for a special ritual and ceremony called the bridging ceremony. And it is when we recognize our senior youth as they move on to the next stage of young adulthood. And as we acknowledge this important time in their lives, we also get to celebrate what a blessing it has been to have them among us. When a child is born into a family, we know that we have been blessed. Similarly, we are blessed as a spiritual community by the children growing up among us. They bring us their joy, their tears, their questions, their challenges. They invite us to play and to grow and to stretch. They challenge us to be brave, to be tender, and to try new things. Most importantly, they invite us to remember our own childhoods, and they help us to stretch our concept of what adulthood could be. Maybe a little more fun? Maybe? Whether a child has grown up at First Unitarian or joined us later in their youth journey, it's a great honor to be the community that recognizes their bridging from youth to young adulthood. During their time with us, we hope that we have been able to teach them something life-giving about what it means to be a people of faith, people of conscience, and committed to building beloved community. We hope that they will remember to find Unitarian Universalism wherever they go, especially if they're feeling lonely or in need. And we promise to welcome them home, here, with open arms whenever they are able to return to this place, their original faith home. So I am excited to invite our bridger forward. We have another couple of seniors that are graduating this year who weren't able to be with us. Bojack, Cooper wasn't able to be here today. So I want to invite Elliot King forward to be recognized this morning and to share a memory and some lessons learned at First Unitarian and to tell us where he is going next.
Is this on?
You want me to help you?
On. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, that one, okay. Many people may not know this, but I actually came to First Unitarian at 3 years old. I was a nursery member here until the age of 5, when we moved to the Hudson Valley. It was the 7th time I had moved already. When I moved back to the Rochester area at 12, it was my 12th move. In the middle of my first year back, a pandemic shut down my entire life. When my family rejoined First Unitarian, I was 14 and hadn't really interacted with anyone my own age in over a year. Youth group was an opportunity to not only interact with peers, but be a part of something. It cut through my isolation and allowed me a path back into the world, something I will always be grateful for. I'm very excited to move on to the next part of my journey as part of First Unitarian. Going forward, something that I'm very excited for this year is that my best friend and I, Caleb, hi Caleb, are going to be moving into a house together. Well, my mother technically owns it. We will be the ones in charge of it. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to be kind of independent like that for the first time. I'm going to be a creative writing associate's major, but I'm planning on eventually, hopefully for my bachelor's, doing something with history, which has always been a long time interest of mine.
And you can stay. You can stay. Yeah. So I have a small gift to offer Elliot today. It's a ceramic chalice and a copy of the book Becoming, a spiritual guide for navigating young adulthood. And I'd like to offer you, you're welcome to sit for this, or you can stand, whatever you choose. I can bring this forward if you want to sit. The young adult, the youth group has a message for you. So, you stand, okay.
Thanks for being a part of youth group and offering us a friendship and leadership, suggesting Victorian theme for this year's Valentine's dance and narrating the children's story during our youth worship service. Your presence has made a difference and a lasting impression.
We want to wish you well in whatever is coming next for you, and encourage you to hold on to a few things that young people tend to remember, adults sometimes forget.
Hold on to your childhood sense of wonder. There is always mystery and magic to discover in this life.
Continue to enjoy the simple things, even when life gets hard and complicated. Simple things like sunshine, laughter, and hugs are still a part of it all.
Friendship is the most important thing. Remember, you are not alone.
we'd like to invite up the representatives from the young adults group, or as many young adults as would like to come up to join us on the chancel for a message that they have for our Bridgers.
It's okay, you can stay here, and then you'll go through the bridge to them.
Hi. So this might feel scary, or maybe it feels exciting, or maybe somewhere solidly in both categories. Trust me, I remember bridging into adulthood, leaving what you know to explore what could be is an amazing, exciting step in life, and that is also really nerve-wracking. How do you know you're going the right way? How do you know which path is right for you? Well, luckily for you, that's where we come in. This community is here cheering you on through the best times and offering a shoulder and listening ear through the worst times. Through all of the times in between when you have questions or ideas or just want community to be in, we are here to support you.
I saw my 17-year-old niece, Priscilla, this week. She visited here at Easter time, so you may have seen her with the youth group. She's approaching the final stage of the journey that you are now completing. At the prospect of entering adulthood, she is anxious about making decisions that will determine the course of the rest of her adult life. It's an intimidating thought, to be sure. But I'll tell you what I told her in hopes that it's at least somewhat reassuring. It's never too late. Obviously, there are certain moves you can make to equip you for specific careers or lifestyles, but you absolutely do not have to have everything figured out right now. I'm pretty confident that almost every adult you know is just figuring it out as they go along. In fact, can I see a show of hands by the adults in the room? I haven't asked the question yet. I guess that was a question. Okay. How many of you followed exactly the trajectory that you planned for when you became an adult? All right. And how many of you think your 18-year-old self would be surprised by where you're at in your life now? And the path you've taken to get there?
Never forget, this congregation and the young adult community are here for you as you navigate all the twists and turns in life to help you deepen your relationship with yourself, your community, and your unique spiritual journey. We're so glad to have you among us, and we're excited to get to know you better.
All right, so now we enter into the ritual, and it involves having all of you stand. So we're going to create 2 covered bridges, one on this aisle. So if you're standing on this side, you'll reach towards your friends over here. If you're standing on this side, you'll reach towards your friends over here. Same with this aisle. This group is doing, yes, people are demonstrating very well. So reaching your arms, we're creating a covered and held passageway for Elliot to travel through. And he will travel down this side and then back up to join the young adults. And the kids, if they want to, can follow after, or they can be part of the bridge. You can choose, whichever you want. All right, let's invite Elliot to head through the bridge. And you can be seated.
Elliot, I offer one final blessing for our ritual, a blessing really for all of us, but especially for those of you bridging and entering adulthood. This is words from the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse this world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gifts of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, to bind up wounds, to welcome the stranger, to praise what is sacred, to do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless this world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. May it be so, and congratulations.
So I'll invite the young adults to return to their seats. And I want to invite you all to join me in singing the children out. But first, let's do something a little fun for them. Can this aisle create a covered bridge so they can just have that experience this morning of heading down, held in your arms, your collective arms? All right, let's sing the children out today.
We bless you on your journey through, from sheltering arms to the wide sky blue, in your joyful jumps and your sad times too. You bless us by being you.
I invite you now into a time of sacred stillness and silence shared among this sanctuary. Grounded in this silence, I invite you to join me into the spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer. Great mystery which grounds us and surrounds us, divine presence known by many names and in many ways. Spirit of life, be with us in this hour of attention, this hour set apart from the rest of the week, this time to breathe, to take stock of all that is our life, a time to mourn those that we have lost, to celebrate the love that has sustained us, a time to rest in the larger love, to find what healing we may by connecting with the deepest source of life within ourselves. A time to remind ourselves of our values and our commitments, to go forth and shape with our actions a world worthy of the love that is its inheritance. Spirit of the divine masculine, on this Father's Day, we bless all who father, all who find resonance and identity with fatherhood, all those who caregive from this place. And we hold in loving care those for whom this kind of holiday brings some pain or complication. Spirit of democracy and liberty, that is unquenchable within us and within the best traditions of our shared nation. Be with us in these days of turmoil, of upheaval, of change, of defiance. May the changes that we demand arise from the sweat of our own labor. May the errors of this age lead us to better wisdom about how to live with one another, about how to build up societies and nations and governments and real communities. May the evil that stalks our land be met with resistance and compassionate strength. May those who are most targeted and victimized by state violence and war across the country and war across the globe find allies, support, and liberation from bondage. May all war and escalating violence and genocide give way to peace and reparation. May everything become whole somehow. May this be our prayer. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and to lay it on the altar of community and spirit. Honoring the complexities of life, I invite you to bring to mind whatever grief or gratitude or growth is alive within you this morning. Online, you are invited to share what that may be in the chat. And here in the sanctuary, you are invited forward to light a candle at one of our altars. If you would like an usher to bring a candle to you, please simply raise your hand. And as Donald lights our initial taper candles, I will ask them to light a candle for all those who have been victims of state violence or political violence in the past week, including Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, who were killed yesterday. May we now share in this ritual of community, care, and witness to one another's hearts. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by the larger love that holds us all, always. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
Today's musical meditation is filled with loving kindness. Please join in singing. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
All that our church is and all that our church does is made possible by the time, talent, and treasure that we give to our shared mission. Members and friends support this congregation financially through recurring giving, and on Sundays we also give to our shared collection. As a part of spiritual practice of generosity, 50 cents of every dollar given now to our offering will go to the League of Women Voters Rochester Metro Education Fund, which works to register voters and provide election information on a nonpartisan basis to encourage the informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League also works to influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League welcomes all people, and its registration efforts have a special focus on registering citizens from low registration areas, high school and college students, the homeless, and newly naturalized citizens at naturalization ceremonies. Using Church Center is the easiest way to give, but if you aren't set up with the app yet, you can also give by texting GIVE and the amount you would like to donate to the number on the screen or in the offering baskets that will now be passed. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. These are the words of the shared value of pluralism, as articulated by our Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, our larger church body denomination association of congregations. And obviously these words are very much about religious pluralism, about how we operate within Unitarian Universalist communities specifically. It mentions our covenant that we hold with one another. But I want to be clear that pluralism is also, it can be a response to any kind of diversity in almost any context. Cultural diversity, racial and ethnic diversity, diversity of sexualities, diversity of educational or economic backgrounds, diversity of political ideas. And it's important to recognize that pluralism is a specific choice, a kind of response, a particular response to the reality of diversity in a given situation. And it is chosen over and against other options, other ways of being. For instance, saying, well, there's only one right way to be religious and everyone else is wrong. That is a response to diversity, a hostile, exclusionary one. Saying there's only one right way to be civilized, or only one way to be American, or only one way that is recognized as being fully human. These are hostile, exclusionary responses to diversity. Saying everyone who follows a misguided religion will eventually be converted to Christianity or Islam or whatever the religion may be is a response to religious diversity, but it is not pluralism. Saying everyone who follows a misguided religion will eventually be convinced that all religions are bunk and science is the only meaningful source of knowledge and truth. That is a response to the diversity of religions and philosophies in the world, but it is not pluralism. A response to racial or cultural diversity that says you can have whatever skin tone you may have, but you have to dress and act and speak in the acceptable ways. That is a response to diversity, but it is not pluralism. Saying you can be, you can believe, you can do whatever you want to all the way over there, and I just won't be a part of it at all. That's a response to diversity. We'd call that tolerance, but it's not pluralism. To quote Eboo Patel, he writes, "If the chief virtue in our diverse society is respect for identity, we are in danger of becoming a nation where people accommodate those with whom they disagree, but have little else to do with them. They keep their most substantive conversations only within the circles of the like-minded. Where there is serious disagreement on a principle with public implications, abortion, same-sex marriage, Middle East politics, on which one group decides it cannot respect a divergent view, the absence of relationship means the potential for conflict is high. Even if violent conflict does not actually erupt, grudging respect and chilly distance between identity communities is not a particularly inspiring vision for a diverse society. It views diversity as a problem to be mitigated, rather than a good to be approached with warm, if considered, embrace." End quote. Stopping at the value of tolerance and not moving into pluralism, I think, is part of what has landed us in a polarized political context today. Now, I say all this and bring this up not to chastise those of us who believe in pluralism and tolerance for not doing enough to cross the aisles and have difficult conversations with those who are different. Frankly, I think those of us on the progressive side have put in heroic efforts to have those conversations, and it is others who have made the conversations impossible. It takes two sides to actually have such pluralistic conversations. But I do bring it up because I think it's important to be clear about what we are fighting for, what the vision of a good society is. And it is not a good society for me that stops at mere tolerance. A good society must fully embrace pluralism, where differences are not merely allowed, but actively engaged. And, of course, boundaries are held around when differences go so far that they are actively harmful to that pluralist thing. There is something called the paradox of tolerance, where it may sound like I'm saying, oh, well, this just means you tolerate everything, including the people who are intolerant or don't want to be pluralists. Pluralism can only include those who are actively working towards a pluralistic society. So I want to be clear that there is a paradox and there is a limit there. But it is important to actively engage differences in a diverse society. And it's not just about engaging the easy differences, where we may have a different belief or practice, but enjoy learning from one another, as a Christian may learn the power of silence and meditation from a Buddhist. A Buddhist may learn the power of embodied and incarnated theology from a Christian. A humanist may learn the importance of ritual from a pagan, and vice versa. The humanist may teach the importance of assessing things with a scientific and empirical view. But the difficult differences, where we have much deeper and more genuine foundational differences of opinions and values, those are what really need to be engaged to fully live out pluralism. If we don't go the full distance, we aren't fully doing pluralism. To be a pluralist, we have to engage these fundamental differences. We have to try and see if we can dig deep to uncover if there is any kind of shared foundation of values, and then see where the divergence arises. Two people may agree on the importance of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or the pursuit of property, as John Locke originally put it. But what are the steps between that shared baseline and one person supporting harsh immigration policies in order to preserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the other one being against those harsh immigration policies in pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? We can't just talk about those people over there have it wrong. To be clear, we will, I think when we engage in this way, we may still come to that conclusion that other people there are fundamental differences that we are not agreeing on, and there is a right and a wrong answer to some extent in a certain context. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is a real difference between saying that person over there has it totally wrong and saying directly to that person, I think you have it wrong. And I apologize to Pablo for looking over here and saying, it's not Pablo, it's just my rhetorical right side. But I hope you notice the difference between, oh, that person over there, I'm talking about them and they're wrong, and turning that person and saying, I think you have it wrong, and here's why, and let me hear and try to understand why you think I'm wrong and where you're coming from, and let's actually engage this issue. As I said, it takes two to tango. If the other party isn't able or willing to engage at that level, then the whole endeavor is not possible. If they say, well, you're a Unitarian Universalist, that's a cult, I'm not going to even argue with you, then you can't have meaningful interfaith dialogue. If they say, you're a liberal, you're everything that's wrong with the country, I'm not going to talk to you, then you can't have meaningful political discourse. But the absence of a political discourse, simply saying, well, we will never agree to even be able to have a conversation, we'll go our separate ways and try to figure it out in the democratic system, that has not worked out for us, I am afraid to say. That possibility of meaningful political discourse is what's at stake. It is what these pro-democracy protests are about. It's why we are fighting with the fascists. Because it would be one thing for a representative legislative body to say, here's how we will manage immigration, and they might choose something that many people disagree with, and they would have to deal with the opposition party. They would have to take the critiques and the questions. They would have to engage the conversation. And if public opinion swayed and the representatives changed and a different Congress came into power, they might choose a different tactic. But instead, this administration has arrested a senator for asking questions. as well as other local elected officials across the country, for asking questions and demanding accountability. They are unable to even have the conversation because, of course, they know they are in the minority, and they would not win in an actual public political discourse without the scales being tipped in their favor. And so suddenly it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a particular issue like immigration, we are talking about the role of dissent, the role of difference, the role of diversity, and what is the response to that diversity. The fascist response is the hostile, exclusionary one that says we have the right way and we will just use our power to make it so for everyone else. And that is evil and that is wrong. The pluralist response, if the pluralist response is the opposite of that, of saying, yes, there is difference, but what our responsibility is, regardless of where we may be, is to maintain the ability to have that engagement, both the ability in terms of the freedoms and the relationship between the government and things like the Bill of Rights to protect people's rights, to have those conversations, but also the skills that we have to have to engage that discourse, to protect those rights, but also to do the work. So I want to talk a little bit more about pluralism specifically and how to practice it, because it is a practice, it is work. It is not just enough to say, well, this is an idea. I, in my mind, believe that there are many paths to religious truth, and that's all I'm going to think about it. I think there are three basic stages as to how I've organized my how-to guide that I am presenting to you now for being a pluralist. The first is the preparatory work, the pre-work that I think one must do. Next comes the inner work that you must do within yourself. And then third, doing the work, perhaps the outer work or the engagement work. And that's really the step that the other two are trying to prepare you for. So, talking about religious pluralism, the pre-work steps would be basic religious literacy. You would need to have enough book knowledge about religions, philosophies, spiritualities, and the world and of your local area to be able to converse with others or even to have the reflections within yourself. You have to know something about the topic that you are engaging with, religion. And you have to develop a theology of religious pluralism. You need to be able to articulate your understanding of why it is that there are so many different religions in the world, different philosophies, and how you think that diversity should be responded to, so a pluralist response. With that foundation, then you can move into doing that inner work. And with religious pluralism, and for many Unitarian Universalists, a lot of this looks like healing from religious trauma. So identifying and acknowledging that religion maybe has harmed you in one way or another. And so being able to identify that, work through that trauma, learning what words and concepts have harmed you, maybe triggers for you, and understand that your experience is not necessarily universal and shouldn't be. And that the same words that may be triggers for you, may be harmful and did harm you, may be very meaningful for other people, and learning to navigate that. And then again, this idea of developing your own theology, your own religious identity. In the first step, it was just, how do I make sense of there being many different religions? Secondarily, it would be, well, what is your own religious identity? What are your practices? What spiritual practice makes sense to you? How do you understand yourself in the landscape of the world's religions? And the important part of knowing this is knowing who you are and why, so that you can not only share yourself with others in that pluralistic conversation across difference, but also so that you can feel less threatened by someone being different. Third step, doing the work. And the first part of this is listening to others. No, really, listening to others. Learn how to listen without judgment, without analysis, without thinking about what you're going to say next. And if you're in one of our Soul Matters groups, this will sound familiar to you because this is exactly what we practice in our small group ministry. If you're not part of a group, but you want to practice that spiritual practice, that skill of deep listening, talk to me about joining a Soul Matters group. I would be happy to help connect you. Another specific trick that I recommend is that when you're listening to someone with a very different worldview or experience, you can repeat back to them what you heard them say and ask them if you understood them correctly. And here's the really important part. Believe them if they tell you that you got it wrong, and continue the conversation there. Now, the last part is sort of a extra bonus deepening level that I do believe people can get to, but it is more difficult. But this is from just listening to moving into being able to speak in the language of others. So this is an advanced skill set. But as anyone who's learned a foreign language knows, right, it's always the hardest thing to actually fluently speak that language. It's a little bit easier to read or to listen, to decode the meaning of how someone else is speaking. But being able to speak with someone of a different religious identity without having to constantly say or translate, oh, but in my worldview, I would say it like this, but actually being able to converse with a conservative Christian, for instance, if you are not a Christian or not a conservative Christian, but be able to understand how you can try to communicate your ideas in their language. Ideally, they're moving in the same direction and maybe able to do some of that practice as well, but it's one of those things where if we can meet people halfway, we can have more of those conversations are possible than if we are only speaking in our own sort of local, personal vernacular. So this three-part model, I think, works for other areas of diversity besides religion. So justice organizing, right? Getting organized for protests or how to make social change. Step one, doing the pre-work. Have basic literacy of social justice, social change movements and tactics and the relationships and the organizations so you know what you're talking about. And develop a pluralistic theory of change, a theory of change, of social change, that doesn't require, it only happens this one way. Next, you would do that inner work. Maybe there is trauma that you need to heal from. Maybe you need to expand your understanding of what tactics are meaningful and why to which people in what contexts. And then you want to be able to articulate and claim your tactics, your identity in the social justice arena, your issues that you are going to focus on so that you can talk with other people, allies or people on the other side, and say, that's great that you're working on that and using that tactic. I know I'm going to focus on this issue over here. And then the third step, doing the work, listening to others who may have a different social justice approach than you, and ultimately being able to try and speak and engage in that language of the other. Or we can go through the three steps as we navigate the vision for a pluralistic American democracy. Step one, the pre-work. Have basic literacy of our history and our intended form of government and the principles behind it. And articulate your own theory of what a good society would be, what makes a good democracy and why. Then, step two, attend to the ways that you have perhaps been harmed by others, by this country, by the ways that America has not lived up to its promises. And develop and understand your own identity, your own values, your own relationship to America, so you know what you mean. I think this has been actually demonstrated really beautifully yesterday. I know there's been a lot of discourse about flags this past week, but so many people using the American flag in the protests, in the No Kings protest yesterday. For some people, given their relationship to power and oppression and American history, the American flag does not inspire confidence in what they see. But for others, it is powerful to say, no, there is a tradition of freedom and democracy represented by the American flag that is not being represented by those in the halls of power right now, and we are going to continue to claim and reclaim this and its meaning. So that's that inner work of knowing, saying, I'm an American, I'm going to wave this flag, and here's what I know I mean about it. Even if other people are using this flag to mean something else, or other people may not fully understand, may have a different relationship to it, and acknowledging that that is okay, that they may have a different relationship to that flag. And then step three, doing the work, listening to others, even those with different backgrounds or value systems, listening for the foundations where there may be overlap, and understanding where the differences arise, and being able to name them and acknowledge them. And practice speaking in maybe the language of others or in a common language or just basic plain speak about what is going on. So you can have these conversations, again, across difference when the other party is able enough to engage in that conversation. I encourage you to, for instance, talk to everyone that you know or everyone that you come across. Talk to them about what is happening in LA, in DC, in Minnesota. Ask them their opinions about it. Not to change their mind or to have a gotcha moment or anything like that, or to shame them, certainly, but to understand and offer witness of your differing perspective. Oh, that's interesting that you think that those No Kings protests were against our country. Here's my values and why I was heartened to see so many people show up. This goes for you interacting with Republican voters. It goes for interacting with leftist anarchists who maybe go too far to the left, in your opinion. It goes for engaging with moderates who don't go far enough, in your opinion. And of course, it even goes for those who are closer in alignment with you, because in that case, you may find a lot of common ground, and you can celebrate and witness to the solidarity. That is an important thing to do as well. But in order to do any of that, in order to practice that pluralism, the point I really want to drive home is that you have to know who you are, and you have to know what you are about, and be to such a degree that you are willing and able to offer that to others and to show up in conversations. You have to be able to do that to such a degree that you aren't threatened by somebody else being different or articulating a different vision of religion or of America. And this is harder than it sounds. Even in our supposedly individualist culture where the idea for the last 100 or 200 years has been rugged individualism and just strike out and say who you are and what you're about and everything will be fine. And that's not actually always how it plays out. But being able to do it in a way that knows who you are, but also knows that we are interdependent and that we have to have these conversations and this engagement across difference. It's harder than it sounds, but the good news is that this is what this faith was built for. This is what our living tradition has grown out of. This is what this church exists for. To live out our shared value of pluralism, to support each of us in our claiming of pluralism and our living out of pluralism, to create opportunities for conversations across difference, and creating opportunities to have difficult conversations grounded in our values and in our covenant. We don't have to go outside of the walls of this sanctuary to have difficult conversations about difference, grounded in our values and in our covenant. This church exists to be a place where we can catch glimpses of a better society, of that good society, where diversity is not a problem to be mitigated, but a good reality to be engaged with. In celebration and dedication to this good news, please join me in singing our closing hymn, Gather the Spirit. Please remain standing. We've got brief announcements about Connection, the opportunity for small group connection and continuing Sunday morning after worship. We've got the Inquiry series doing a campus tour and orientation to our building right around the corner. If you are new or newish here, the Inquiry series is the place to be to learn more. The 20s and 30s group will be meeting in the Susan B. Anthony Lounge. Upstairs, the 40-plus friend-making group is gathering, the Unitarian Buddhist Fellowship. This is what democracy looks like is gathering, of course. We've got the Parents of Trans Children group and the Flute Circle. And as we close our worship, when we're all done, if you would help stack both the chairs with arms and the chairs without arms. Because, as a reminder, you don't have to do this part, but between now and next week, all the chairs will be moved upstairs into Gilbert Hall for summer worship. So please help us stack both kinds of chairs. And I will invite Donald to help us extinguish the chalice as we read our unison words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May you know yourself and know what you're about. Do the work and engage with others, grounded in and supported by our shared faith. Go in peace, and blessed be.